What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ty behind the camera, and sitting before us is the 2024 Volvo XC60. And this one happens to have the B5 engine and the Plus trim level, so kind of the mid-range trim for this vehicle. But we have some pretty notable options such as the climate package, these really nice 20-inch wheels, and the Harman Kardon sound system. And we're also working with this beautiful bright dusk paint color, which is kind of a cross between a almost tan and a kind of rose gold color. So very, very neat color on this car. Definitely looks great in the sunlight. And we have a matching, not a matching, but a charcoal interior, leather interior that is. But overview of the video, we are going to take a look at what makes this special on the exterior. Then we'll pop the hood, see what powers the XC60. And in the trunk, see how much room we have back there. Then we'll make our way inside, starting with the rear seats, and then moving forward to the front seats and kind of detailing all of the features in between. But you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, because I'm going to strap this GoPro to my head, and we're going to take this XC60 for a test drive. But first things first, our headlights, as standard, are full LED units for the high and low beams. We also have the turn signals and the daytime running lights, all powered by LEDs. Just below it, you could see the cutout for the headlight washers. You can see there's also parking sensors up front and fog lights down below. Take a look at that, all LED powered with the fog lights too. Looks very nice, illuminated. But yes, lots of gloss black coming around with the side grills, the lower grill, and even the main grill, which looks very, very nice. And at the bottom of the Volvo logo, you can see that there is a camera, and that is one of 4 cameras with a 360-degree view camera system that this vehicle has. Nice long kind of sloping hood on this car. And we also have those 20-inch optional wheels with these kind of black pockets and the machine face to the wheel. Again, they measure up at 20 inches, and the tires measure 255/45. Definitely a really attractive looking wheel choice for this car. More glossy black on the side with your mirrors and the window surrounds, as well as the roof rails. You can see that we do have the panoramic roof, and there's also the shark fin antenna up there. If you take a look around, you can see our mirrors have the blind spot warning with this kind of little line shape right here, which will illuminate yellow. We also have the turn signal indicators on the mirror, and underneath we have the camera for the side view. Smart key entry for all 4 doors. As you can see, this little button right here will lock, and just put your hand behind the handle to unlock. Again, that goes for all 4 doors. Back here, you can see we have a nice spoiler and the third wiper. All LED lights back here too, as you can see. Very nice, all illuminated. The tail lights, brake lights, and even turn signals are all LEDs. We have a nice amount of badging back here with the XC60. The Volvo kind of spanned out below the wiper blade, and then below the L we actually have our trunk release, and the reversing cameras also under there. And the B5 tells us that we have the turbocharged 4-cylinder under the hood, which is also a mild hybrid. We have parking sensors back here and some more glossy black right down at the bottom. So what do we think of the design on the XC60 for 2024? I personally think it looks great. Let me know in the comments. So once we pop the hood, it actually opens nice and tall for us to get a nice view of the engine, which is the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And it's also a mild hybrid setup to aid in the start-stop technology. But it produces 247 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. All XC60s for 2024 are going to be all-wheel drive as standard, and that's hooked up to an 8-speed automatic. And that is the B5 powertrain. So there's actually another engine available, which is called the T8, which is a plug-in hybrid. Now that is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with a supercharger and an electric motor to produce 455 horsepower, 523 pound-feet of torque, and you could drive up to 35 miles on pure electric. So that's a pretty attractive powertrain if you're willing to fork over the extra dough. That is also all-wheel drive with an 8-speed automatic. So two pretty unique powertrains on the XC60, but this one is definitely no slouch. We will get an acceleration clip while we are out on the road, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So take a look at that paint in the sunlight. But opening up the trunk, of course, it is fully powered. We have a nice big opening for a pretty large trunk. And of course, this is a mid-size SUV, so we have a pretty mid-size trunk. We have some storage extensions to either side and also some illumination, which is nice. Grocery bag hangers on both sides, and again, that illumination continues to both sides too. Nice all-weather liner for the cargo area. Underneath, even nicer carpet and some tie downs. And if you lift that up, we could see we do have a spare tire and also a cargo shade, which you can bring back and extend to right here. Now you can, of course, fold down the seats at a 60-40 split, and there's also a pass-through right here, which adds to your cargo convenience. You have two buttons up here to close the trunk. One to lock the vehicle and close the trunk, or one to just simply close. So, taking a look at the rear cabin, we have a pretty good amount of space back here and some pretty nice materials too. So all the way up here is a nice soft to the touch material. We do have some metal work with a pretty cool handle, also a lock-on-lock button, and a couple of speakers back here too. So we have the 14-speaker Harman Kardon audio system on this vehicle, and you'll see some branded speakers up front. We have a little bit of storage down here and a nice soft armrest with some stitching. Take a look at that. We even have a air vent on the B pillar for the rear passengers. And really nice quality to the leather on this vehicle. Now you can get a multitude of different colors and material choices, including Napa leather, but this one is just kind of the standard leather that Volvo offers. It has a very nice grain to it, and of course very comfortable, that it being a Volvo. We have a hopper right here to fold down the rear seats flat, so you can fit even more cargo. And as you can see, as soon as you hit that release, the headrests will fold down on both sides. We also have a armrest right here with some cup holders that you could pop out, and you could see the other side to the pass-through. All right, let's take a hop in to see how much space we have back here. Now this seat is scooted back quite a ways to a position of a 5'10" male like me. So the room is not too bad back here. You definitely have lots of room width-wise and tons of room for head space. Now back here we do have some heated seats, a little bit of a storage area, and a spot with two USB-C chargers. Drivetrain hump is relatively small, so if you had to fit a third person in the back here, that would be no problem. And it is definitely a pretty nice and roomy place to be back here. As you can see, we have grab handles, illumination, and a nice view at the panoramic sunroof when the shade is open. Okay, next up is the front cabin. It's probably a part of the video you've been waiting for, but as far as material goes, same as out back. Very nice high quality materials. Up here is nice and soft, and even down here is soft to the touch. And then we of course have some leatherette on the sides here for your armrest. Bit more switch gear, including two-person memory for the driver and the lock-on-lock button. And we also have a branded Harman Kardon speaker with another one towards the bottom. We have power window and child locks back here with this button there. All of our window controls as well as our mirror adjustments. And if you simultaneously press the L and R buttons, that will power fold the mirrors. And a pretty large segmented storage area on the driver's door. On the left of the dash, we have a pretty cool looking air vents with some very nice kind of open pore wood trim. We have a trunk release, and taking a look down here, besides the dirty carpets, we have your tilt and telescoping steering wheel release, and of course our pedals. And the hood release is actually up against this plastic panel right over here. Nice illuminated sill plate with Volvo there. Your seats are fully powered with two-way lumbar. And of course, Volvo does seats best with some of the most comfy seats in the whole industry. Now that we're seated in the XC60, you can see a very beautiful design kind of highlighting with the wood elements. They kind of go across the dashboard, and you have some swoopy lines even down here with some wood elements. But definitely a pretty attractive looking interior for the XC60, following the design language of most Volvos nowadays. Very reminiscent of this car. But I have the key with me. We have the logo on the face of the key, and then we also have buttons on the side. Lock, unlock, trunk release. Then on the other side, we have a panic alarm with a little switch down here to kind of take the key slightly apart to gain access to the physical key in case you ever needed to. We of course have this switch right here, which you just turn to start the vehicle. And it's very strange because this is a mild hybrid vehicle, so most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, at least in my experience, the Volvo actually start up without using that traditional like cranking noise of a starter. And it'll kind of use that electric engine to turn the engine over. So that is pretty, definitely a different sound that kind of goes off in your ears there, something I noticed at least. But our steering wheel is nicely leather wrapped in black leather. We have some stitching on the inside and all of our adaptive cruise control settings over here. And the up-down for your audio volume, back and forth for different tracks or songs. We have voice commands and a page button for up there on a digital dash. Behind the steering wheel, we have this stalk off to the left, which houses your turn signals, automatic high beams, kind of the rest of your lighting controls, and the front and rear fog lights. Taking a look at the other side, we have another stalk for the front and rear wipers. Very attractive looking digital gauge setup for us. It's fully digital, and over here we have the speedometer with the digital setup right there, and right below you have the speed limit. We have our lighting information up here, your lane keeping assist, all of our seatbelt indicators, and the exterior temperature. We have our tachometer with what gear you're in, and also your fuel gauge down here with a distance to empty. Now the screen isn't really that configurable. If you press the central button right here, it'll kind of pull up all of your trip information, so you can also reset it. And then when this is activated with the Google Maps, you can then press this button here, and the kind of center of this screen will become the Google Maps. So that is pretty cool. But not entirely configurable, but I guess everything that you really need is kind of displayed right there in front of you. But definitely a very clean and nice setup. Pretty soft upper dash with another Harman Kardon speaker, and that brings me down to our Google-based infotainment system. We of course have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but we do have a heavy Google presence in this screen. Of course, we have the Google Maps, which have to be set up, but that does include with every car as your navigation system. We have the audio right here, in which we could switch our source to the regular radio. We have our phone screen, and we also have our Google Assistant with voice commands, which is pretty cool. We have some other controls over here to get different apps, such as bringing up your maps or YouTube. You could technically even watch my videos in this car if you'd like. We have the radio, which once you select a station, and of course turn it down a little bit, and that'll kind of display what is getting played right here in a pretty nice fashion. Taking a look back over here, that is how you access your Sirius XM, your Apple CarPlay, and also the car status, which is another thing I wanted to show you. This will kind of give you your tire pressures and your oil life and things like that, kind of service reminders as well. We also have the Google Play Store, which you can download different apps to, and you could swipe from the top to kind of log in, log out different users, set up your different settings and things like that, which is pretty cool. You can also pull up your cameras at any time. It'll default to your rear view camera with the parking guidance lines. You can also shut off your parking sensors and the rear auto braking from the camera. But if you tap that 360 button, it'll kind of give you the top-down view with those 4 cameras all the way around the car, and you can kind of tap in each area to get what camera displayed up there. So you tap in the front of the car, you get the front camera. Tap on the side of the car, you get the side camera. So that's a pretty cool solution to the cameras. Right next to it is kind of your climate tab. So we have the heated seat and heated steering wheel, and then of course your heated seats on the other side as well. And if we tap on the temperatures, you can get a full climate menu. Now, there isn't any climate controls kind of physically in this car except for the 2 defrosters down here. So this is kind of how you will adjust everything. Now, if you go back to a more normal screen, you can adjust the temperatures really quickly, but for any more functions, you have to go through the screen. So setting your AC, changing where the air blows, the fan speed, and the temperatures are also here, which you can sync and unsync. But it is a pretty simple screen with the climate control. Over here we have some settings for driving. You can actually toggle on and off an off-road mode, kind of adjust your safety assistance screen, and you can also firm up your steering wheel, which is pretty neat. Some other things in the settings, you could customize the sound on the Harman Kardon sound setup. You can set up different profiles, and there's also different settings where you can log into your Google account and kind of link everything up. But pretty simple screen, definitely a very heavy Google presence in that screen, but that maybe isn't a bad thing. Taking a look down below, we have a couple of switches for the hazards, the volume for the radio 2, and the skipping between different tracks, and again the defrosters like I pointed out to you earlier. We have a small storage cubby where you could keep pencils and pens up here, maybe even change. And we could slide this big one back, and we have a 12-volt power outlet. A little bit of storage, probably a good place to put your key, and 2 cup holders. Pretty neat gear shifter for this car, and the fact that it's hollow, so you can stick your finger right through. But straight down is for drive, and then straight up for reverse. As you can see, your reversing camera will pop up, and a little P at the base of the shifter for park. We of course have our start-stop knob right there, and a couple of buttons down here, one for your electronic parking brake, and the other for your auto hold feature. Nicely padded center console that you can lift up, and there's a pretty decent amount of storage in there. 2 USB-C chargers in there too. On the passenger side, you have some nice wood grain to look at, and a pretty large glove box, felt lined inside, and is also illuminated. We even have down here on our passenger air vent a little Swedish flag outline. That's pretty neat. We have a lighter, more neutral color for the headliner, and up here we have our visors. We have a card clip, a mirror, and illumination. And up here we have a couple of controls. Really keeps it pretty simple up in the center stack. We have this little slider that's kind of touch sensitive, which you move, and that will open up your sunshade, and then once the sunshade is open, it'll also open up your sunroof itself. So it's kind of a double controller. We have tap illumination right there, and then the central button will kind of turn all of your illumination in on here. We have our SOS and emergency buttons. Nice big frameless mirror with your garage door openers. And let's take a look at that sunroof now that it's fully open. Looks very nice, large sunroof, and you can even see it and enjoy it from the back seats. But that pretty much does it for all the features on the 2024 Volvo XC60. Let's get it out on the road and see how it drives. Okay, so we have the XC60 out on the road, and just keep in mind we have that 2-liter turbocharged engine under the hood with a mild hybrid setup to assist with the start-stop system. Pretty strong little acceleration there, but we will get a kind of a better acceleration test coming up. But now that we're on a road that's kind of like a 2-lane highway, we have some pretty good noise levels here. So at 45 miles an hour, I could barely hear the oncoming traffic. There's just a little bit of tire noise, but yeah, the sound levels in this car are pretty good up at this speed. So you have no problems on the highway. And we of course have our lane keeping assist too, which is kind of an active system, meaning that it will steer you back into your lines. I don't have it activated at the moment, but it does do a very nice job in the Volvos, so that's pretty good. Right on this road here, it'll take us onto a back road. This is where we'll do our acceleration test. We also have a pretty nice setup here on this back road to really get a feel for this XC60 out on the road. So as soon as this light turns green, we will go ahead. Now we also have the start-stop activated. Now, as I said just before, the mild hybrid system aids in that start-stop. So as soon as you take your foot off the brake, it just whirs back into life, the engine. So that's pretty neat. Now I'll give this guy in the Jeep some room, but what I like to do is get it up to 25 miles an hour and then just hit the throttle and see what happens. Let the transmission do its thing, and we'll see. Here we are at 25. Let's do it. Yeah, actually a pretty good amount of power coming from this 2-liter turbocharged engine. The 8-speed automatic did a really nice job of putting us in the correct gear, and the turbocharger took over and gave us all the power that we need. And it's a really nice kind of linear engine. The power band to this engine is very nice and kind of even all throughout the RPM range. So pretty good, impressive powertrain on this car. And let's just keep in mind that there is also the T8 plug-in hybrid with even more horsepower, quite a bit more horsepower actually. Just about double the amount of horsepower this car has. So if you're looking for more power, although this is pretty good already, you always have the T8 plug-in hybrid. But back to this car here. We have a pretty bumpy section of the road here with some imperfections and things like that. And I can tell you right off the bat, this is definitely a pretty comfortable suspension setup. Now you can also get a air suspension setup for the XC60. So if this isn't enough for you, you know, test drive both, and the air suspension will definitely ride a little bit better over all these bumps. But the standard setup like we have here is really just fine. It is pretty comfortable, definitely on the softer side of the suspension, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. The engine stays nice and quiet too once you're on the gas. Lots of noise insulation and things like that going on in this car, so that definitely helps out. And even some turbo noises going on too with the engine, so that is pretty cool. Yeah, this 8-speed automatic is definitely pretty quick to react to the throttle inputs, which is awesome. There is also that manual mode if you'd like to become even more sporty. You just bump the shifter down like I showed you earlier, and then kind of side to side as your different gears. But definitely a pretty impressive car for the nice back roads of Connecticut. Most of them tend to be bumpy, although this one they just recently paved. But this car does exceptionally well on the bumpier roads. Also, one more thing I wanted to talk about is the seats too. Volvo is kind of known for having some very, very comfortable seats, and I can tell you this is no exception to that. These are definitely pretty comfortable seats. The other more basic seats, I guess you can get a more comfort-oriented seat and a more sporty-oriented seat, and these are kind of just the more basic ones, but trust me, they are plenty comfortable with all the lumbar adjustments and things like that. You can really get pretty comfortable in the XC60. I have a beautiful fall drive up here in the Northeast with all the leaves changing, so that's a nice bit of scenery for the viewers. It is definitely that time of year. But that pretty much rounds out the video and the entire review on the 2024 Volvo XC60 Plus. I thank each and every one of you for watching, and I hope you stay with us next time for more videos on tire drives.